everyone, welcome to today's live. I'm going to make sure that everything is working well. This is not a card pull or anything. This is just a chat today. So I'm not doing any readings, healings, anything like that. Alright. I just gotta make sure that everything is working right. It's live. I'm going to make sure. Alright. I just gotta make sure. Okay. I had to make sure that I have the AC going on in my room, in my office. So I wanted to make sure that you guys weren't hearing it or it wasn't causing a lot of audio issues. Bonus. Alright, so I think I'm almost ready to get started. Alright, we are good. So today I'm going to be talking about attachment and detachment. A lot of people say like attachment versus detachment. I don't believe that it's not one against the other. So I was very intentional with how I worded the title of this live, for the simple fact that we do need to have attachment of some things, and we all, but for the most part, we don't really need to have as much attachment as we feel that we do. So, first of all, what is attachment and what is detachment? I'm going to start with attachment first. Attachment is when you take on everything outside of yourself as yours. I'm talking about spiritual attachment and detachment here, not as far as, like, oh, I have a physical attachment to my dog, or, or an emotional attachment to my dog, or things like that. This is more, I mean, it obviously it's the same thing, but I'm talking more on the terms of spirituality. And I'm not here to say that attachment is wrong. I'm not here to criticize anyone that has attachment to things. I have attachment to things. But I want to explain why we live in a world that is far too attached and what can detaching from some things do for your own sanity, because trust me, it will change your sanity. It will help you keep what little bit you have left in today's world. So first and foremost, attachment is allowing the things outside of you to become yours. This might be energy, empaths. I'm looking at you. You're allowing that energy to attach to you. That's an attachment. When someone says something negative about you and you hold on to that, you are attaching to their words as though they're truth. Which I'm going to be doing a live very soon, probably this week, about why or how everyone that ever says anything bad about you is actually talking about themselves. But I will get into that one another day. So attachment, like, honestly, attachment will ruin you. Attachment makes you so anxious. Attachment is just, it makes you a people pleaser. It makes you even harder on yourself than you already are. And I think as human beings, we're already pretty naturally hard on ourselves. We don't really need any other reason to be hard on ourselves, but here we go. We try to find more reasons why we need to be hard on ourselves. Obviously, the opposite of that is detachment. Detachment is, and I'm not saying as far as detachment being that you don't care about things. I practice detachment all the time, and I care about a lot of things. I'm just very picky on what I care about as far as what I give my energy to. So I'm talking about detachment isn't meaning an emotional detachment. When I say attachment, I never form an emotion on it. When I'm practicing detachment, I haven't even formed an emotion. So now I'll get into that process, and that process will make more sense to you as I explain to you of how to go about the process of attachment and detachment. So let's say for an example, I can't see any. Um, if anybody is commenting anything, I can't see anything at all. It says that somebody's commented. I got nothing. Hang on one sec. I'm just going to try to figure out why I don't have. Oh, they're there. Hey, Deb. Hey, Mona. I had to restart my phone. So, when I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you wake up in the morning, and you go outside to check the mail, and somebody drives past you and screams the word bitch at you, and you are instantly embarrassed, and you're instantly ashamed, and it's like you run back into the house to hide, kind of thing. You have just experienced attachment. You've just experienced somebody outside of you attaching their feelings or their way of seeing you onto you. I am actually going to have to get into the whole projection thing a little bit today, but I will go into more detail about it in another video. So the truth of it is, though, is that people that, and I've said this a million times, and I will continue to say this, people that are healed will not intentionally hurt anybody else. Healed people don't hurt people. And I don't mean that, like anybody that's healed is totally perfect. They're not. But they don't, there's those people out there, and unfortunately in our world there's a lot of them, that will, these certain people will go out and go out of their way to try to hurt people, in an effect, or in an attempt to help make them feel better, which, I mean, that's projection at its finest. So the truth of it is, though, is that we hold on to so many things that people say about us, or the things that people do to us, as if it's ours. And it's having the realization that what other people do, what other people say, how other people act, the only part of that we have ownership in is what we allow them to do to us. So let's say, like, I mean, obviously in the example that I gave, where somebody drove by and had said something that you don't necessarily like out the window, you're not going to chase them down and beat the crap out of them, obviously. That's a completely different video, and honestly I'm not doing that video because you need more help than I can give you, basically, at this point. That's some anger management issues. But it comes down to it that when you are in a situation where you are owning everything that happens in your life, in your day-to-day life, as your own, then there's like a serious attachment issue going on here. So in attachment, it doesn't matter what anyone says, it doesn't matter what anybody does. We, as human beings, I guess we're programmed this way, but we are programmed to see the negative in ourselves. Therefore, when we already have that negative attachment, that we see ourselves in a negative way. So when somebody else says something about us, it's very easy for us to jump on that, because it's almost like it reiterates to us of like, yes, I've already felt this way about myself, therefore that person must be right. So it just keeps, we just keep building up that attachment. But the truth of it is none of it's actually true. I mean, I can't say none of it. Most of it is not even true. The things that we attach ourselves to literally is other people's drama. It's other people's energy. It's other people showing you where they are energetically. It's got nothing to do with us. Absolutely nothing to do with us. But as human beings, and stop and think about this for yourself. How many times has somebody said something negative about you and you totally owned that? Like, you owned that like it was nobody's business. But yet somebody said something nice about you and you had a hard time with that. That right there is telling you that you have way more attachment than detachment. You have way more attachment to things than detachment. There has to be a shift there because you're going to make yourself completely crazy. If you are attaching yourself to everything that isn't yours, it's only a matter of time before your anxiety, depression, all those things are just gonna like take over your life because there's no separation between who you actually are and who other people have made you to be. Um, so this is where detachment comes in. Detachment, and I mean, it's not something that's easy because, again, everything to do with spirituality, everything that I'm going to be teaching on, comes down to a series of. First of all, you have to recognize it in yourself, bringing it to your truth, making it become your truth, is bringing it forward, bringing it into the light. Um, it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that because a lot of us are so like have those like preconceived things where there's so many things wrong with us that we don't want to even begin to look at them. But the truth of it is, detachment, if you are able to just take some time and work through it, is actually a very easy process. If it has anything to do with anybody outside of yourself, don't hold on to it. It's not yours. Stop owning it. Stop claiming it as your own. It's not yours. Let it go. If someone says to me, actually, I remember this one time. This is actually funny now to me, but I had someone in my husband's family claim that I was just looking for someone to raise my children. And I get that I was a single mom back then, and I get at that point that there was there's a lot of stigmas around single mothers. Unfortunately, this person wasn't really aware enough of themselves that they didn't realize that I don't. That's not me. Like I don't fit. I never fit into. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, single moms are welfare cases," and single moms have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 jobs, whatever, to make ends meet, or single moms are this and single moms are that, and there's all this like negativity around it. But the truth of it is that I raised my kids. I mean, I had some help from family, but for the most part, I raised my kids by myself with my own income. And at the point that comment was actually made, I was making about $12,000 a year more than my husband was. So it was like, who's raising whose kids here, realistically? Like financially, yeah. No, it wouldn't be him raising my kids. Didn't even make any sense. But I could have owned that and said, "Oh my God, like I'm such a bad person because I'm really I'm looking for somebody to raise my children." And I'm very open and honest. Finding my husband and being with my husband is probably one of like the most selfish things I've ever done. It was 100% for me. I mean, I'm not saying that my kids didn't have anything to do with my choice. Obviously, if he was bad with my kids or my kids didn't like him, we would not be together. But as far as his role in my children's lives, that's where it ended. As long as he was a good influence on them, that was it. And I could have taken all of that, all the things that were said about me completely wrong. Not even wrong, but I could have held on to them and as if they were mine. But the truth of it is they were never mine. There's absolutely no truth to it, and it was just somebody else blowing off where they're at. People are always speaking for where they're at. Obviously, this person has issues with their own life, issues with their own family, whatever the case may be. I'm not here to judge them. I'm not here to make claims to where they were at the time. But the truth of it is, everything they said was not, like, there was no ounce of truth to anything that they said about me that day. Even though a lot of people will talk about you as though they know you. The truth of it is, you have to ask yourself, how well does this person actually know me? Is there actually any truth to this? And you can question it. Like, people, this is one thing that honestly I don't understand. And I think we need, like, if we need a starting point, this is where we need to start. Is we need to start questioning everything that comes across our 5 senses. everything. We need to question everything. If we hear something, question it. If you see something, question it. If you smell something, touch something, question it. We do everything, and I mean, realistically, it's just laziness, but we do everything on by default, and it's just automatic, right? So it's like we never actually question anything. But what if you start questioning? What if you say, okay, this is the experience I just had. Like somebody just cut me off, whatever the case may be. How do I choose? Because you always choose. How do I choose to react to this? How do I choose to respond to what this person just did or what this person just said? How do I choose? If you can decide that it doesn't matter, like for example, somebody cutting you off, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No. I mean, obviously, if they caused an accident, and it went worse than just a simple cut off, then yeah, obviously there's more issues there. But if somebody just cut you off, what is the point of getting angry? Who is that hurting other than you? You're not hurting the person that cut you off. They don't give a shit if your day has gone to hell because they cut you off and you were angry, and then that carried off to the rest of your day. But in that moment, if you know about detachment and you know that, hey, you know what, I don't have to own this. And I'm going to give you guys an example of exactly what I do. Although I'll be honest, I'll be 100% honest, and anybody that ever drives with me knows this to be true, is I have practiced detachment in a lot of areas of my life, and I've been very successful with detachment in a lot of areas of my life. But road rage is one thing that if somebody's coming at me, it's just like that instant reaction. Obviously, there's a pattern there as well. There's more to it. With me, there's more to it that I need to change my patterns. I need to change my those knee-jerk responses. Again, it's just, I've allowed myself to be that way. But that is the one thing I still struggle with this. And I find it kind of ironic that I'm using being cut off as an example of detachment when I myself would be like, using every curse word in the book. Eventually I get to the point where I'm like, I bless you and have a good day. And that's what I typically do to people. I was just like, I don't say that to them. Sometimes I do, but I mean, honestly, if I want to shut people up, the best way, especially if you're having an altercation with a narcissist, the best thing to do is just say, I bless you, have a good day, and turn around and walk away. That will shut everything down very, very quickly. But I say this in my head a lot of times, I bless you, have a good day. And it just means, in my mind, it's like, it's not worth me owning it. I am not even going to stop and think about how I feel about this situation. For an example, somebody cuts you off. I bless you, have a good day. That's it. It's a matter of having that understanding that whatever is coming into us is not necessarily within our control. I mean, it is through manifestation. Again, that's a whole nother video. But for the process for the whole idea of this video, let's just say we don't have a whole lot of control over what's going on in your day to day. But the truth of it is, there's going to be things, even if you are working on manifestation, even if you are working on your own vibes and keeping your vibes high, shitty stuff still happens. And it's how you relate to it and how you decide to attach to it or detach from it, that's going to make the difference. So detachment would literally be you stopping in that moment and saying, you know what, this person cutting me off really doesn't change my day. Nobody got hurt. Everybody's safe. Maybe they have someplace else to go. Tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself. It's not worth me having an emotion. It's not worth this emotion being attached to me. And it's not worth this emotion that is now attached to me becoming buried and then becoming an ailment X amount of years down the road. Because that's exactly what happens. And this is why detachment is so important. Is because all those little things that you let attach to you become the ailments that your body has to fight off X amount of years down the road. The things if we can just allow ourselves in every situation, and I usually, how I do this is, let's say if I had, uh, I'll use my daughter as the example because, I mean, she's 17. Overall, she's a good kid, but I mean, we do clash at times. And there's just times where she will say something to me. Her and I actually had a little bit of an altercation last week, and she's like, "You never support me. You never do this," and you're like, typical 17-year-old girl drama. And so, and I'm not. I mean, it didn't hurt me when she said that, but I was like, okay, is she right? Is there some way that I can be more supportive of her and let her know that I'm more supportive? So what I actually did was I asked her, what is it that you need from me to feel more supported? And so she explained to me exactly what it was that she needed from me to feel more supported. And I explained to her how, with me being a human being as well, that I couldn't always do that for her. Um, because of who I am, the way I process things, my own humanness. So I actually, through a conversation, her and I sat down and I understood what I was able to do for her, which, I mean, obviously I can meet her there in the middle, but I also made her understand who more of who I am, so that she can understand why it can't be all her way. Like, in relationships, it's not about, like, even though I'm the mother, she's the child, it's not about me giving her everything that she possibly needs. That is not my job. That is not my job. And I know, I come at me on the comments if you want to. As a parent, it is not my job to give my kids everything they need. Nothing. It isn't. Because the truth of it is they have to figure out how to give themselves what they need as well, especially at 17 years old. My daughter is almost an adult. She's going to be out in this world. She needs to know how to give herself those things that she needs. Obviously, at one point in her life, it was my job to give her the things that she needed. Was I successful? Probably not. Because the truth of it is that she still, at 17, at times still feels like she's being unsupported. But I'm not going to own that. The truth of it is maybe the unsupported part that she's feeling is the lack of her own supporting of herself. I don't know. But so her and I were able to have this conversation, and at the end of it all, we realized that we can find something in the middle that works for both of us. We can figure out exactly, like, she now knows me more as a person and not just as mom, because the truth of it is, at some point, our children and us as children to our parents have to get to a point where we're like, you know what, this is not a mommy and daddy and a child relationship anymore. This is an adult to an adult to an adult relationship. I need to be an adult, and I need to look at this person, my parent, as an adult. And my kids, neither one of my kids want to look at me as an adult, but it's times like that where it's almost like I force them to, because, like, they need to understand how I am too. Like, what I can bring, what are my strong suits that I bring to relationships? What are my weaknesses that I bring to relationships? Because they have to be able to obviously understand that, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it, and understand how our relationship is going to work based on who they are, but also based on who I am, and what the two of us within the relationship bring to the table. So I could have very easily just walked away from my daughter in that moment and been hurt over the fact that she told me that I'm not supportive. Or I could have just brushed it off and like, yeah, think whatever the hell you want, I don't even care, which then would make her feel as though she's not validated, or that her emotions or her opinions of how she feels are not validated. But the truth of it is, her and I were both able to walk away from that conversation, and neither one of us had an attachment to an expectation or to an emotion. All we had was an understanding. She had a better understanding of me, I had a better understanding of her, and that was it. It's in every single split second of everything that happens in your life if you're not questioning it, you're being lazy. You are being lazy. You need to question everything. You need to question, okay, so let's say your aunt on your mother's side passed away and everybody around you is all upset. You need to ask yourself, how do I feel about this specific person passing away? Maybe you didn't have a very good relationship. Maybe you weren't very close with this person. Maybe you didn't have, maybe like there was just kind of, like a mutual understanding of differences. So therefore you weren't very close. Whatever the case may be, the truth of it is a lot of the times people will actually say, oh, well, I was upset because I feel like I was supposed to. You, like, honestly feel as though, and I know once I say this, you guys are going to be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But you actually are being, like, forced into feeling a certain way when somebody passes away. For me, even, I talk to the dead all the time. I have a very different opinion of death than I used to before I started talking to the dead. And the truth of it is that for me personally, when somebody passes away, I will not go to their funeral. Not a chance. Because I don't need to. And the truth of it is all of those low vibe emotions of other people and their processing and their grief. I don't need for that to attach to me. I don't need for that to become to weigh heavy on my energy. I need to go through my own grief process. I need to go through that in my own way, and I need to honor that. And I already know that, like, I've had many dead people tell me that funerals are for the living, not for the dead. The same as going to the graveyard. It's the most peaceful place in the world to me, because nobody's there. People that pass on are only attached to the things that they had attachment to when they were alive. No one, while they're alive, is attached to the casket. No one is attached to a plaque or a headstone or a place where they're put to rest. They have no attachment to that, therefore they're not there. But everybody in my family would go to a funeral of somebody that was well loved and that was close with us. And it would be very easy for me, and I know there was members of my family that would have no issue with, like, reaching out to me and be like, hey, you are in the wrong, you should have been there, blah 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 blah. But the truth of it is that in my own detachment, I have figured out what is important to me, what is necessary for me, and what it is that I have to do to stay true to myself while also being respectful and encouraging to others. A lot of this has to do with boundaries. I have very, very, very strong boundaries. And I have very, very clear boundaries. And it just comes down to it that I'm not going to allow somebody else's opinions of what I need to do and how I need to process things to become mine. I don't own them. Again, it's detachment. So anything that comes across your day, before you allow yourself to get angry or upset or even happy, like, this works both ways. Before you allow yourself to have any feeling, any emotion at all, ask yourself, is this important to me? Is this important enough to me to risk having a disease down the road? Is this important enough to me for me to hold on to this as an emotion? If the answer is yes, then by all means attach to that thing. But if the answer is no, and I guarantee you the majority of the time it's going to be no, you're going to start to see how important it is to actually start questioning everything that happens in your day-to-day life. Because you're holding on to everything right now by default, and you don't need to. The load that you're carrying by the end of the day, the exhaustion, the actual, like, the stress and the pressure that you're feeling, 9 times out of 10, it's not even yours. It is what everybody else has put on you. Especially as parents, we have to take kids here and to there, and we have to do this for them, and we have to do this for them. And I mean, in the world of online learning, we're teachers, we're parents, we're doctors, we're taxi drivers, we're, making sure that this is happening, making sure that's happening. We have so much attachment to everything, and we've allowed that attachment to come that we never actually stop to ask ourselves, is it worth it? Do I want to have an attachment to this? Do I need to have an attachment to this? Or do I just need to have attachment to it while I'm here and then I can let it go? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. These are the questions that, as things start coming up, you really need to be focusing on. And if your answer is no, let it go. If you cannot change it, why the hell are you letting it attach to you? Because it's not yours, it's somebody else's. I guarantee you, so many of us hold on to so much that isn't ours. And nobody cares. The truth of it is, nobody cares. Nobody cares. If somebody hurts me and I'm holding on to that hurt, do you think the other person gives a shit that I'm holding on to that hurt? No. It's not even a second thought. So I have to look after myself. I have to question myself. I have to look at myself and say, hey, is this something that I have control over? Is this something that I can change? Is this something that I can do something different with, so that it's better and doesn't feel so heavy on me? If your answer is no, why the hell are you holding on to it? It's not yours. Detach from it, let it go. You will thank yourself for this. Trust me, you will thank yourself for this. Patricia says, understanding our parents are also people as when we grow up. That is so true. That is so true. And unfortunately, I think that's a lot of where, like, not a lot, but where some, like, parent-child relationships fall apart, is either the parents not recognizing that the child is grown, or that the child not recognizing that the parents are actually people first. That is very, very, very true, though. So I want you guys just to practice this. If this resonates with you, if just even honestly, just do it just to prove me wrong. For like half a day. Do it for like, okay, for the next 2 hours, everything that happens in my life, I'm going to question it and see what happens. Just, if it resonates with you even a little bit, it will change your life. You're going to go through the world a lot less attached to all the things that are happening. I get asked a lot, especially with COVID going on, and I don't speak about COVID a lot, and that's the reason. I have no attachment to it. I have no, and I'm not trying to sound cold, and I'm not trying to sound as though I don't care about the people that are struggling and fighting with it. But the truth of it is I don't have attachment to the fear that's attempting to be built around it. Some people are. A lot of people are very, very, very fearful of it. And that's the choice that they have made to attach to that, and that's their choice. There's no wrong way to do this. At the end of the day, it's us that we have to take care of it. It's us that has to do what is best for us. But right from the get-go of COVID, I refused to ever have any attachment to the fear-mongering that was happening. I'm just like Switzerland. Like, you have the people on the one side that are like, pro-vaccine and pro-masks and pro-lockdowns, and then you have the other people that are anti all that stuff, and I'm somewhere in the middle, really not giving a flying fuck about either one. That's pretty much where I'm at. I'm doing what I can do. I wear a mask. I personally am not going to get a vaccine. That's my own choice, and I'm allowed to have that. But my daughter is getting a vaccine, and that's fine too. We don't hate each other because I choose not to and she's choosing to. My kids are allowed to make their own decisions that way. She's, like I said, she's almost 18. Well, she'll be 18 next April. So I don't get to make this choice. The only thing that I asked of her was that she did her own research before she made the decision. She did that. She made her decision, and it is what it is. But even all of this other stuff, if we look into the world of what's going on today, you're going to see how much people have attachment to things. Because especially online, where you have to go and like fight with everybody over every stupid little thing, it's because you're so attached to something, you literally can't see anything else. You can't see, your blinders are on. There is no bigger picture. There's just what you can see right here. And that's just an attachment issue. Learn to detach and to only attach to the things that are truly important. Because I promise you, over half of what you have attached to you is not important at all. All right, guys, that is it for today. Talking about being a mom, I gotta go rush my daughter off someplace to an appointment. So I'll be back here to talk about something else tomorrow. I don't know what yet, but probably projection because the two kind of go together. Um, I'll be back here at some point tomorrow to talk about that. So until then, take care. Bye for now.